Hey everybody, this is Adam Frick with Cannabis One TV. We are out here at the California Cannabis Business Conference. It's a lot to say, but I've got with me a guy from Arcview. Gave a great talk earlier today about investing in this industry. His name is David. David, talk to us a little bit about this industry. What's happening right now?
In one word, it's growing.
Yeah.
It's
no pun intended, but yeah.
It's one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing industry in the country.
Yeah.
It's growing globally. We're seeing a lot more overseas markets starting to implement medical programs.
Mm-hmm.
Canada just started its federal adult use, which is a big deal.
Right.
And in the United States specifically, it's able to grow so quickly because where most new emerging industries have to create supply and demand as they go,
Right.
supply and demand for cannabis has existed forever.
Right.
All we have to do is shift that from the illicit market into the legal market, and that's able to happen very rapidly. Really, the bottleneck is changing the laws, and that's sort of happening state by state. But we see a lot of movement on that front, so the opportunities just keep expanding.
So this is really like the dot-com boom that happened in the 90s. You know, we're really at the forefront of something really big. The only difference is, obviously, we've got to deal with the legalities of it. So does your company, do you touch the plants, or are you ancillary? Where are you looking to invest your money and add to your portfolio?
So we work with a group of about 650 high net worth accredited investors who are looking to deploy capital in the cannabis space.
Yep.
We provide them with deal flow, so we vet dozens of companies a week and choose the best of those to do online pitches. We have a custom deal flow platform where these companies can post all their information. We look at all companies if they're in the cannabis space, cultivators and dispensaries, but also ancillary businesses, anything from grow equipment manufacturers to fintech companies in the cannabis space to an HR company for the cannabis industry.
Sure.
So there are really opportunities all over the map, and that reflects a lot of the diversity of our investors. We have investor members from all different backgrounds, some looking to deploy $100,000 or $200,000 in the industry, some looking to deploy 10 or 20 or more million dollars in the space.
So if you're looking to get into this market, now obviously the legality part of it is a big fear factor for a lot of investors. They don't want to go into something where they feel like they're going to their investment's going to be lost to legislation, right? So what do you say to those investors, or are the people that you're talking to, are they really savvy enough and they understand the risks that they're willing to do it?
So the risks are definitely declining. I've been in the cannabis investment space since 2009, and the market has changed entirely. The risk profile has changed entirely. The risk, especially with investment in ancillary businesses from a legal perspective, is really minimal at this point. There's a lot of opportunity that goes along with the risk that does remain.
Right.
And investors are realizing that so far the federal government has been pretty hands-off with investors who are participating in the space. We haven't seen a lot of enforcement actions for investors because they're investing in cannabis businesses. But definitely there is still that sort of element of uncertainty, and the legal landscape is changing from day to day. So that really provides some risk, but a lot of opportunity as the industry grows and evolves.
Right. What gets you excited? When you're looking at this industry right now, today, what gets you excited about it?
What gets me excited is the amount of creativity that's going into some of these businesses. We're seeing entirely new market categories that are emerging as companies figure out new science, new methods of ingestion, new branding approaches. It's really changing the way that we look at cannabis.
Yeah.
For a long time, cannabis was just a plant that you smoked.
Right.
And that is definitely no longer the case. In addition to all sorts of edibles, there are various vaporization technologies, topicals, all sorts of things, and people are getting really, really creative about how they apply these new developments.
Right.
So I think you'll find that a lot of consumers who may not have been interested in smoking a joint are going to be very interested in some of the developments that we're seeing on the product.
Edibles or oils. I mean, there's topical lotions and things like that can really help with back pain or pain or other pains, and even rashes and other things that we've talked to some other people about. And yeah, I mean, right now the sky's the limit. There's so many endless possibilities with this one little simple plant that's been around forever and has been illegal for 80 years, and now we're looking at the almost legalization all across America. All we're just waiting for is the feds in a few other states, right?
Absolutely. And we're seeing things. Several companies that have raised money through Arcview are working on things like cannabis beverages that hit you much faster.
Yeah.
So when you drink a drink of alcohol, you feel it relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And it leaves your system relatively quickly. And that allows you to titrate your dose of alcohol very easily and effectively.
Sure.
With traditional edibles, there's a long time until onset, and then it's in your system for hours. So as these companies are developing new ways to make the effects hit you within a couple minutes in some cases, that makes it much easier for you to really be able to dose the way that you want to from either a medical or a recreational perspective. And then new scientific formulations that allow the high to leave your system much more quickly will allow you to use cannabis in contexts that weren't previously available.
Right, and I think the biggest scare for a lot of people is they're worried that they're going to take too much. They don't know. It's so new to so many folks, and yet they want to try it, but they're afraid that they're going to trip out. Right, for lack of a better term. Really, they're going to overdose on it, and they're not going to feel right. So I think you're right. I think these drinks having maybe 5 milligrams of THC in there just to get them started, and then you can regulate it. And then you can go, okay, I know how I feel, and I feel good, and now I'm starting to come down, and then I can now do another drink and get myself back in that even zone and stay there. So I'm still coherent. I still feel great, and my pain's gone or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Whatever they're into.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a trend of more low-dose products, especially low-dose edible products, becoming available on the market, and we expect to see that trend continue. It's really helping to bring in some of these new consumers who may not have any experience with cannabis or may not have experience with cannabis for quite a while.
A new phase of the functional beverage industry would be the cannabis-infused anything, right? So, and I haven't seen anybody here at the show doing that. Do you guys have anybody in your portfolio?
Yeah, we've seen quite a few companies that are raising money through Arcview with beverage companies.
Yeah.
Edibles has traditionally been a relatively small part of the cannabis market.
Yeah.
It's growing very rapidly.
Yeah.
And within edibles, beverages have been a relatively small part of the overall edibles market. But that is also growing, and we expect it to really have an explosion. The amount of money that's being put in to specifically development of cannabis beverages by companies from traditional marketplaces means that the sky's the limit when it comes to the sorts of formulations that they're going to be able to create and the sorts of experiences they're going to be able to create for consumers. So we're definitely watching the beverages segment very carefully, and we expect to see a lot of really exciting things happening there.
That's cool. So that's obviously on the recreational side. Now on the medical side, is there how many strides are being made to do pills, cannabis in pill forms?
So there are a lot of pharmaceutical companies that are working on various formulations for cannabis pharmaceuticals. Epidiolex was recently approved by the FDA, and that's a CBD pharmaceutical. What we find is that some of these drugs can be very effective for some people. For a lot of medical patients, they really get the most benefit out of whole plant medicines.
Yeah.
There's an entourage effect that happens when you get not only THC or CBD, but the other various cannabinoids that exist in the cannabis plant, along with the terpenes and flavonoids and various other volatile compounds that really have a synergistic effect. And for a lot of patients find that's far more effective than just sort of isolate the individual compound and take that by itself. So I expect there to be a lot more development on the pharmaceutical side, but there's also going to be a lot more development on the medical side with whole plant medicines.
Right. I think the more savvy the user gets, they'll probably start with something that seems pretty benign or easy to ingest, and then graduate to something a little more holistic, I guess you would say. So one last question before you leave us. What information would you like to give any investors that are looking to get into this industry right now, and they have some money burning a hole in their pocket, and they really want to put it here somewhere, but they just don't know where? What do you recommend? What do you suggest?
I suggest that you take the time to get educated about this space. There are a lot of facets of the cannabis space that are unique to the cannabis space, and even if you have experience investing in other industries, it's really important to get a solid grounding in the cannabis space specifically before you go out and start deploying capital. At the Arcview Group, we offer a great opportunity to network with other investors from all sorts of different backgrounds who are placing capital in the space. They really learn from each other. They often partner on due diligence, get together, work with each other, and they can really leverage that sort of a level of expertise that you don't get from just one person. So you might have one investor with a real estate background and another with a background in pharma, and they'll get together to look at a potential investment and often deploy capital together. So the one thing I would recommend is definitely get educated before you start putting money into things.
Well, that's just about for any market, but I will say, getting back to your point of talk to other investors and getting involved in a group where there's other people, there certainly is a camaraderie and a really cool vibe and feel with the investment groups that are coming into cannabis. That you don't see with other emerging markets or other markets in general. David, thank you so much for talking with us. I really appreciate it. David with Arcview. If you have any questions, check them out. What's your website? It's arcviewgroup.com. 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 All right, David. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the show. All right. Well, there you go, everybody. We're going to come back with some more information about other investment opportunities and some more businesses that are happening here. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time right here on Cannabis One TV.